Hello there, and welcome back to Cosmic Sleep, where we gently explore the curious corners of our world and our minds. Tonight, our cozy expedition takes us to a feeling many of us have encountered, a peculiar whisper from the brain that makes the new seem old and the present feel like a perfectly replayed moment. We're talking about déjà vu, that strange, fleeting sensation that you've been here, done this, heard that, even though logically, you know you haven't. It's like finding a familiar bookmark in a brand new book, a moment where the script of reality seems to stutter, and you briefly wonder if you've accidentally stepped into a movie you've already watched. Imagine this. You're walking through the bustling streets of Monza, perhaps near the royal villa, a place you've never set foot in before. The aroma of freshly baked focaccia drifts from a nearby bakery. The distant rumble of a train from the station adds to the city's hum, and the sun, high in the summer sky, casts long shadows down a narrow alleyway. You turn a corner, and there it is, a small, unassuming fountain tucked into a courtyard, with moss-covered stones and a gentle trickle of water. And in that precise instant, a profound, undeniable sense washes over you. Not just recognition, but a full-bodied, visceral conviction that you've seen this fountain before, heard its precise gurgle, felt this exact quality of light. You might even feel like you know what's around the next corner, or what the person walking towards you is about to say. But your rational mind, the part that remembers booking your flight and checking your itinerary, screams, impossible. This is new. That's the essence of déjà vu. The eerie dance between the known and the unknown, the brain's insistent claim of familiarity against the cold, hard facts of novelty. It's a feeling that can be both disorienting and oddly comforting, a fleeting glimpse into a potential crack in the fabric of our perception. For centuries, philosophers, mystics, and even poets have grappled with this elusive phenomenon. Some saw it as evidence of past lives, a faint echo from a soul's previous journey. Others believed it to be a premonition, a brief flash of the future that had somehow imprinted itself on the present. In more modern times, it's become a staple of science fiction, a convenient plot device for temporal anomalies, parallel universes, or glitches in virtual realities. But for the vast majority of us who experience it, déjà vu is simply a deeply personal, often fleeting, and universally recognizable feeling that leaves us scratching our heads and wondering, what was that? It's estimated that a significant portion of the global population, perhaps as much as 70% or even higher, will experience déjà vu at some point in their lives. It's particularly common in young adults, often between the ages of 15 and 25, and tends to decrease in frequency as we get older. This demographic trend is itself a clue, hinting that whatever mechanism underlies déjà vu might be more active or finely tuned during periods of intense cognitive development and novel experiences. Children, with their constantly unfolding world, might experience it but lack the sophisticated cognitive framework to articulate or even fully recognize it as a distinct sensation. Older adults, whose lives might be more routinized and whose brains process new information differently, tend to report it less. So, if you're a young adult in Monza, feeling this strange familiarity while exploring the city, know that you're certainly not alone, and it's a perfectly normal, albeit puzzling, aspect of the human experience. What makes déjà vu so captivating is its inherent paradoxical nature. It is, by definition, a false sense of recognition. You are consciously aware that the current moment is new, yet your subconscious, or a deeper part of your brain, is absolutely convinced that it's a rerun. This internal conflict is what gives déjà vu its unique, almost unsettling quality. It's not a memory in the traditional sense, because you can't access when or how you first encountered the scene. It's not a hallucination, because you are still firmly grounded in reality. It's a feeling about a memory, or rather, a simulation of memory, occurring in the absence of an actual corresponding past event. The sensation often comes with a distinct emotional tint, sometimes a mild unease, sometimes a fleeting thrill, of mystery, occasionally a simple, profound, aha moment that quickly evaporates upon conscious interrogation. The settings for déjà vu are often mundane, everyday occurrences. Walking into a room, hearing a phrase, experiencing a particular smell, or seeing a specific arrangement of objects. It rarely involves dramatic or highly emotional events. You're unlikely to experience déjà vu during a high-stakes emergency, for example. Instead, it seems to prefer the quiet, unremarkable moments of life, almost as if it's a background process in our brains that occasionally bubbles up to the surface when our cognitive guard is slightly down. This everyday nature also contributes to its mystery. If it happened only in extraordinary circumstances, we might dismiss it as a trick of heightened emotion, but its prevalence in the mundane points to a more fundamental, perhaps even systemic, mechanism within our neurological architecture. Before we delve deeper into the fascinating scientific theories that attempt to unravel this intricate puzzle of perception, I'd love to know if you've experienced déjà vu recently, and what that felt like for you. Was it a strong wave of familiarity or a subtle, passing thought? Did it leave you feeling confused, intrigued, or just a little bit amused? Just a little moment for us to connect across the vastness of the internet, sharing our human curiosities about the mind's hidden workings. If you find this gentle journey soothing, or simply a peaceful way to unwind after a long day of navigating the new and the familiar, please consider giving this video a like and perhaps subscribing. It truly helps this little corner of calm reach more minds seeking a quiet pause, minds that, like yours, might be experiencing their own little internal echoes. So settle in, slow your thoughts, and let's continue our exploration into the wonderfully weird world of déjà vu, because somewhere between memory and imagination lies the story of the mind's familiar tricks, waiting to be gently unveiled. So, what's going on behind the scenes when déjà vu strikes? This seemingly simple question opens up a labyrinth of neurological and psychological possibilities, leading researchers down fascinating paths that explore the very nature of memory, perception, and consciousness itself. While no single theory has definitively cracked the code of déjà vu, several prominent ideas offer compelling insights, painting a picture not of a supernatural phenomenon, but of a momentary, harmless glitch in the astonishingly complex machinery of our minds. One of the most popular and scientifically supported theories frames déjà vu as a memory phenomenon, specifically a momentary hiccup in how our brain processes and retrieves information. Think of your brain like an incredibly vast and intricate library, not just of books, but of sensations, emotions, conversations, and experiences. Each new input, each new moment, is a fresh volume arriving. Normally, when you encounter a new scene, say, that charming fountain in Mansa, your brain quickly catalogs it as new, creating fresh neural pathways and memory traces. But what if, just for a split second, something goes awry in the cataloging process? One prominent idea within this memory framework is the dual processing theory. This suggests that when we encounter a new scene, our brain doesn't just process the information through one pathway, like a single conveyor belt. Instead, it takes in data through multiple, slightly independent channels. Imagine two separate, incredibly fast conveyor belts bringing information about the fountain, its visual details, the sound of the water, the smell of damp stone, to your conscious awareness. What if one of these belts, perhaps the one responsible for rapid, unconscious recognition, delivers its payload just a fraction of a second before the other, more detailed, conscious processing pathway? In this scenario, your brain might mistakenly Interpret the slightly delayed, but identical, information from the second pathway as a re-experience of the first. It's like seeing something twice in very rapid succession, but you only consciously register the second viewing as familiar because the first, fleeting glimpse has already left a subtle, non-conscious trace. Your brain is saying, I just saw that, without realizing it just now saw it for the very first time. It's a trick of timing within your own neural network. Another related and widely discussed theory is that of fragmented memory retrieval, or Gestalt familiarity. This concept posits that déjà vu arises when you encounter elements of a current scene that, while not forming an identical past experience, strongly resemble components of something you've previously encountered. Perhaps you've never seen that specific fountain in that exact courtyard, but maybe you've seen a very similar style of fountain in a different Italian city. Or a dream you had last night featured a moss-covered stone structure. Or even simpler, the unique combination of the light, the architectural style, and the sound of trickling water in this new setting collectively triggers a strong sense of familiarity because your brain has encountered similar individual elements before, just not in this precise configuration. Your brain is a remarkably efficient pattern matcher. It constantly scans incoming sensory data, comparing it to its vast internal database of past experiences. In the case of fragmented memory, your brain recognizes enough individual pieces of the puzzle, the type of cobblestones, the particular shape of a window, the distant sound of church bells, to activate a familiarity signal. However, it can't quite pinpoint the original complete memory because that exact configuration doesn't exist. So, instead of recalling a specific event, your brain generates the feeling of familiarity without the accompanying context leading to that. I know this, but I don't know how I know this sensation. It's not remembering the exact event, but rather a mosaic of its parts, leading to that I've been here before feeling. It's like hearing a few notes of a song you've never heard before, but those notes remind you so strongly of another song that your brain mistakenly flags the new one as already known. Consider an example. You walk into a stranger's living room. You've never been there, but you notice the antique armchair looks exactly like your grandmother's. The lamp on the table is identical to one you saw in a magazine, and the faint smell of jasmine reminds you of a holiday from years ago. Each of these elements, individually, is familiar. Your brain, in its incredible eagerness to make connections and find patterns, takes these three familiar fragments and, rather than processing them individually, combines them to create an overwhelming sense of familiarity for the entire new room. It's the Gestalt, the whole in this case, the whole new room, that takes on the feeling of recognition, even if the whole itself is novel. This sum of its familiar parts effect can be incredibly powerful, precisely because the conscious mind isn't usually tracing these individual connections. It just receives the final, unsettling output, already seen. The brain's incredible speed in processing information also plays a role here. We often take in vast amounts of sensory data unconsciously before it reaches our full awareness. Think about driving. You unconsciously register thousands of details about the road, other cars, and signs without actively focusing on each one. If your brain processes a new scene, like that Monza fountain, extremely quickly, almost subliminally, and then moments later, you consciously focus on it, the second, conscious processing could be perceived as a repeat of the first, pre-conscious one. It's a bit like a computer program running a quick scan in the background, and then when you manually open the file, it appears to load instantly because it was already seen by the system. This concept of unconscious processing highlights the subtle ways our brains constantly work behind the scenes. We're not always fully aware of the myriad sensory inputs our brains are receiving and categorizing. Déjà vu, in this light, isn't a mystical occurrence, but rather a fascinating peek behind the curtain of our own cognitive processes, a momentary glimpse into the lightning-fast, mostly hidden work that our memory and perception systems perform every second of our waking lives. It reminds us that our experience of now is not a simple monolithic thing, but a complex, multi-layered construction, occasionally prone to delightful and puzzling little misalignments. Understanding déjà vu through the lens of memory and perception helps us appreciate the extraordinary, and sometimes quirky, ways our brains shape the very reality we experience. Beyond memory processing, some theories delve into the very electrical activity of our brains, suggesting that déjà vu might be a brief, harmless hiccup in the complex symphony of neural communication. Imagine your brain not just as a library of memories, but as an incredibly intricate and dynamic power grid, with billions of neurons constantly firing and transmitting signals. These signals flow from one neural station to another, processing sensory input, forming thoughts, and generating our conscious experience of the world. What if, just for a moment, there's a tiny, momentary short circuit or a slight, almost imperceptible delay in transmission within this vast network? This could explain déjà vu as a brief temporal lobe disturbance, a fleeting electrical anomaly that causes the recognition signal to fire just before the new experience signal has fully settled. The temporal lobes, located roughly behind your temples, are critical players in this neural orchestra. They are profoundly involved in processing sensory information, particularly sound and the complex recognition of faces and objects. Crucially, they are also central to the formation and retrieval of memories, linking emotions to experiences, and even processing language. Given their multifaceted roles, it makes sense that any temporary disruption in these regions could lead to a feeling as specific and peculiar as déjà vu. When we experience something new, the temporal lobes are actively working to encode that information, to integrate it into our existing understanding of the world. But if there's a momentary desynchronization, a tiny misfire, or a transient overload within these lobes, the incoming sensory data might be processed in a way that mimics the signature of a retrieved memory, even though no actual past memory exists for that specific moment. Consider it like a sophisticated internal echo chamber, a fresh incoming stream of sensory information about the bustling Piazza del Duomo, with the sun glinting off the cathedral's spires, the chatter of the crowd, and the scent of roasting chestnuts, enters your temporal lobes. Before this new input is fully and consciously registered as new experience. A slight neural delay or a premature firing within the temporal lobe causes it to resonate, creating an internal echo. Your brain receives both the original signal and this echo almost simultaneously. Because the echo resembles a retrieved memory, a familiar signal, your brain might then, for that fleeting moment, tag the entire experience as already seen. It's not that you remember the Piazza del Duomo, but that the neural signature of recognition has been artificially generated or triggered by this internal echo. This theory gains considerable traction from clinical observations, particularly from the study of individuals with temporal lobe epilepsy. In many cases, patients experiencing seizures originating in the temporal lobe often report sensations that strikingly resemble déjà vu, sometimes as an aura preceding a seizure. These auras are brief, sensory, or emotional experiences that signal the onset of a seizure. For these individuals, the feeling of déjà vu can be far more intense and prolonged than in the general population, ranging from a subtle sense of familiarity to an overwhelming conviction that they are reliving a precise past moment. The fact that a specific neurological condition, characterized by abnormal electrical activity in the very brain region, implicated in memory and recognition, so frequently produces this sensation, strongly suggests a neurological basis for déjà vu. For the vast majority of us who experience occasional, fleeting déjà vu is not a sign of epilepsy, but rather an indication that the complex electrical processes in our temporal lobes are occasionally, harmlessly, out of sync for a split second. It's a momentary blip in the brain's otherwise incredible symphony of activity, a temporary hiccup in its highly synchronized operations. Further support for the neurological perspective comes from the understanding of how our brains integrate different sensory inputs. Our experience of reality is a complex tapestry woven from sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste, all processed by different parts of the brain and then seamlessly stitched together to form a coherent whole. If there's a slight asynchrony in the arrival of these sensory inputs to the higher processing centers, déjà vu could arise. Imagine you're walking through a museum in Florence, gazing at a Renaissance painting. Simultaneously, you hear the hushed murmur of other visitors and catch the faint scent of old wood and varnish. If the visual information of the painting reaches your conscious awareness a mere millisecond before the auditory and olfactory information, your brain might effectively process the visual input. Then, when the sound and smell catch up, it reprocesses the entire scene, leading to the already seen feeling. The initial, very brief processing of the visual input, unintegrated with the other senses, might be forgotten or subliminal, but its existence primes the system for recognition when the full sensory picture finally arrives. This is akin to a very rapid, unconscious pre-exposure, followed by a conscious exposure, leading to the illusion of prior experience. Moreover, the rhinal cortex, a region closely associated with the temporal lobe, is believed to play a critical role in generating feelings of familiarity. Unlike the hippocampus, which is crucial for recalling specific memories, what you did last Tuesday, the rhinal cortex is thought to be more involved in simply signaling that something is familiar, without necessarily providing the detailed context of where or when you encountered it before. This distinction is vital for understanding déjà vu. When déjà vu occurs, it's often the feeling of familiarity that dominates, rather than a full, detailed recall of a past event. If there's a spontaneous or mistriggered activation of the rhinal cortex, it could generate that familiarity signal in response to a genuinely new experience, leading to the hallmark sensation of déjà vu. It's like a faulty familiarity alarm going off in your brain, signaling recognition when there's no corresponding memory to back it up. So while déjà vu might feel like a profound, almost mystical experience, its roots could lie in these very subtle, very quick, and perfectly natural fluctuations in our brain's electrical and information processing systems. It's not about accessing alternate dimensions or tapping into past lives, but rather about the extraordinary complexity of our own cognitive architecture. For the vast majority of us, it's just a fleeting, benign anomaly, a momentary blip in the brain's otherwise incredible symphony of activity. It serves as a fascinating reminder of how finely tuned our perception is, and how easily even the slightest internal desynchronization can create such a compelling and puzzling feeling. Our attention plays a surprisingly large and often underestimated role in the experience of déjà vu. It's not just about what our brain does with information, but also about how and when it receives it. When our minds are distracted, perhaps multitasking, tired, or simply not fully focused on our surroundings, we might be more susceptible to this familiar feeling. This theory suggests that déjà vu is less about a memory glitch and more about a momentary lapse in our conscious awareness, leading to a unique kind of internal reprocessing. Imagine you're navigating the winding, ancient streets of Matera, Italy. Your phone rings, a message from a friend. As you glance down to read it, you continue walking, your brain still taking in the sensory information of the narrow alleyways, the unique Sassi cave dwellings, the shifting light. However, your conscious attention is momentarily diverted to the screen. You're still seeing, hearing, and perhaps smelling the surroundings, but not with the full, deliberate focus that usually accompanies a new experience. Then, you put your phone away, look up, and consciously engage with the scene before you. In that moment, a powerful wave of déjà vu washes over you. It feels as though you've seen this exact vista before, even though you just walked into it. Happened? The theory here is that your brain did, in fact, process the scene during that initial moment of distraction, but at a subliminal or unconscious level. It registered the key features, the texture of the rock walls, the arrangement of the staircases, the particular angle of the sunlight, but because your full attention wasn't engaged, these details weren't immediately integrated into your conscious, active memory as a new experience. Then, a few seconds later, when your attention shifts back and you consciously register the room or the scene, your brain encounters these previously processed, albeit unconsciously stored, bits of information. Because a faint, unconscious trace or preliminary processing of the scene already exists, your brain interprets this second, conscious processing as a redash experience dot. It's almost like your brain accidentally previewed the scene without your full attention, much like a streaming video might buffer a few seconds ahead without you actively watching. Then, when you consciously play it by focusing, it feels familiar because a faint, unconscious trace already exists. This isn't a memory of a past event, but rather a memory of a past processing state. Your brain has effectively seen it before, just not with your full conscious awareness. This explains why déjà vu often feels so fleeting and hard to pinpoint. The initial, pre-attentive processing is too brief or shallow to form a robust, retrievable memory, but just enough to trigger a sense of familiarity when the full, conscious processing occurs. Consider the common scenarios in which déjà vu often occurs. You're tired, stressed, multitasking, or simply letting your mind wander. These are all states where your attentional resources might be stretched thin or fluctuating. When our focus isn't sharp, our brains might become more prone to these processing lags or dual pathway effects. If you're intensely focused on a single novel task, like learning a new language or solving a complex puzzle, you're less likely to experience déjà vu because your attention is fully engaged in the present moment, meticulously cataloging every new piece of information without pre-exposure. This idea ties closely to concepts of mindfulness and meditation practices, though from a different angle. In mindfulness, the goal is often to bring full, non-judgmental attention to the present moment, to a breath, a sound, a sensation. When we are truly fully present, our minds are less likely to create these internal processing delays or fragmented representations that could lead to déjà vu. We are simply experiencing the moment as it unfolds, rather than having our attention split or our brain pre-processing information unconsciously. Déjà vu, in this light, could be interpreted as a subtle call from your brain, a gentle reminder to bring your focus back to the present moment, to fully engage with what's happening right now. Furthermore, the degree of novelty in a situation can influence our attention and subsequently the likelihood of déjà vu. If you're in a completely alien environment with no familiar cues, your brain is likely working overtime, fully engaged in processing truly novel information. This intense focus on the new might make déjà vu less likely. However, if you're in a setting that has some familiar elements but is largely new, like a hotel room in a foreign city that has a similar layout to one you've stayed in before, or a cafe with decor reminiscent of your local haunt, your attention might be less acutely tuned to the novelty. Your brain might quickly scan and recognize the familiar elements, then mistakenly apply that familiarity tag to the entire, partially new situation. This is where the subtle interplay between attention, novelty, and subliminal processing becomes key. In essence, the attention theory proposes that déjà vu is not so much a defect in memory storage or retrieval, but rather a quirk of attentional allocation and the multi-layered nature of conscious awareness. Our brains are always working on multiple levels, with some processes running in the background out of our direct conscious perception. When these background processes briefly overlap with or precede our conscious engagement with new information, the result can be that strange, compelling sensation of having already seen or already done something that is, in fact, happening for the very first time. It serves as a fascinating reminder of the incredibly intricate and sometimes quirky ways our minds create our subjective reality, weaving together conscious and unconscious inputs into the seamless tapestry of our experience. Sometimes, the trigger for déjà vu isn't a deep neurological glitch or a complex memory processing error, but rather subtle environmental and situational cues that our brains pick up on without our conscious awareness. This theory suggests that déjà vu is less about an internal malfunction and more about our incredible, often unnoticed, ability to process patterns and resemblances in the world around us. Our brains are constantly looking for connections, for fragments of familiarity, and occasionally, these fragments coalesce into that uncanny feeling of already seen, even when the overall situation is entirely new. Imagine you're exploring the historic Grand Canal in Venice. You've never been to Venice before, so every gondola, every palazzo, every arching bridge is a novel sight. Yet as you step off a vaporetto at a particular stop, and your gaze sweeps across a specific cluster of buildings, perhaps a bridge leading to a small square with a particular cafe at its corner and a distinctive statue, a sudden, undeniable wave of déjà vu washes over you. You feel certain you've walked this exact path, seen this precise arrangement of elements. But how? One compelling explanation lies in the concept of cryptomnesia, or hidden memory. This isn't déjà vu in its purest form, but it often overlaps and contributes to the feeling of familiarity. Cryptomnesia occurs when you genuinely encountered something in the past, but you've forgotten the source of that encounter. Perhaps you saw a photograph of that exact Venetian square in a travel magazine years ago, or a documentary about Venice briefly showed that very scene, or you even had a dream about a remarkably similar setting. Your brain stored that information, but your conscious mind didn't register it, or the memory of the source faded. So, when you encounter the actual place, your brain's recognition system fires. But because the original memory's context is missing, you're left with just the feeling of familiarity, leading to the misattribution. I've been here before, instead of I saw a picture of this once. It's like hearing a catchy tune on the radio and feeling sure you know it, but you can't for the life of you remember the artist or song title. Your memory is active, but incomplete. Beyond direct, forgotten. Exposure, déjà vu can be triggered by subtle similarities in spatial arrangement or configuration. Our brains are masters of spatial recognition. They quickly process the layout of rooms, the relationship between objects, and the overall feel of a place. If you walk into a new cafe in Rome, you might experience déjà vu not because you've been to that cafe, but because its internal layout, the arrangement of the counter, the tables, the windows, and the entrance is strikingly similar to another cafe you frequent back home, or even a friend's kitchen. You might not consciously articulate the similarities. Oh, this layout is just like my kitchen. But your brain, operating on a deeper, more pattern-matching level, recognizes the structural resemblance. This recognition of an underlying template triggers the familiarity signal, which then gets applied to the entire new experience. It's like recognizing a musical chord progression that sounds familiar, even if the melody and instrumentation are entirely new. The underlying structure feels known. Researchers have explored this through experiments. For example, participants might be shown a series of novel, computer-generated scenes. If one scene shares a similar spatial layout with a previously seen but forgotten scene, participants are more likely to report déjà vu, even if the specific objects within the scene are entirely different. This suggests that the brain might prioritize the overall gist or structural familiarity of a scene over its individual elements. It's a highly efficient way for our brains to navigate the world, quickly assessing whether a new environment feels safe or familiar based on its general configuration. But it can sometimes lead to these harmless misfires. Like déjà vu, the context surrounding an experience can also contribute. Imagine you're attending a conference in Berlin, and during a break, you step out for a coffee. As you're waiting in line, you overhear a snippet of conversation about quantum physics, while simultaneously smelling a particular brand of hand sanitizer and seeing a specific type of plant in the corner. None of these elements are individually extraordinary, but the unique combination of them, the topic of conversation, the specific smell, the type of plant, might, in aggregate, strongly resemble a fleeting moment you experienced weeks ago back home, perhaps while listening to a podcast, walking past a specific shop, or having a casual chat. Your brain processes this particular conjunction of cues, and because it's a relatively unique combination, it triggers a strong but context-less feeling of prior experience. It's not remembering the specific Berlin coffee break, but recognizing the pattern of sensory inputs that, by chance, happens to echo a previous, forgotten pattern. Furthermore, sensory details themselves, often processed unconsciously, can be powerful triggers. A specific fragrance, a unique blend of background noises, or even a peculiar quality of light can evoke powerful feelings of familiarity, especially if they are associated with vague, unremembered past experiences. Have you ever smelled a scent that instantly transported you back to a specific feeling or memory, even if you couldn't recall the exact event? Déjà vu can work in a similar way, where a novel scene is subtly permeated by a sensory detail, a particular blend of coffee aroma and the hum of an espresso machine, for example, that strongly resonates with an unremembered past experience, leading to the already seen illusion. The unconscious processing of these subtle sensory cues can precede the conscious recognition of the new environment, setting the stage for déjà vu to occur. In essence, these environmental and situational theories suggest that déjà vu is often a product of our brain's extraordinary, but not infallible, ability to recognize patterns and process information on multiple levels, both consciously and unconsciously. It's a testament to how profoundly our memories are shaped not just by specific events, but by the subtle, often overlooked, context and configurations of our surroundings. The more complex and nuanced the environment, the more opportunities there are for these subtle resemblances to occur, weaving that uncanny thread of familiarity into the tapestry of a brand new moment. While most scientific explanations for déjà vu comfortably reside within the realms of psychology and neurology, the feeling itself is so profoundly unsettling and uncanny that it has also sparked deeper philosophical contemplation and even touches on more speculative ideas, pushing the boundaries of what we currently understand about consciousness, time, and reality itself. Could déjà vu be more than just a brain glitch? Could it be a faint echo from a broader, more mysterious universe? One of the oldest and most enduring non-scientific interpretations of déjà vu comes from spiritual and metaphysical traditions, the idea of a past life. For those who believe in reincarnation, déjà vu is often cited as anecdotal evidence of a soul's previous journeys. The feeling of stepping into a new place, meeting a new person, or hearing a new piece of music, and instantly feeling an inexplicable familiarity is interpreted as a flicker of memory from a prior existence. Perhaps that old stone bridge in Lyon, which you've never consciously seen, feels familiar because a version of you in a different time walked across. It's centuries ago. Or that intense connection you feel with a stranger is because your souls have intersected in another lifetime. While compelling on a personal and spiritual level for many, these interpretations are, by their very nature, beyond the current scope of scientific falsifiability. Science relies on empirical evidence and testable hypotheses, and memories of past lives simply don't fit into that framework. Yet the persistent human tendency to seek deeper meaning in such an anomalous experience speaks to its profound psychological impact. Moving closer to the edge of theoretical physics, some speculative theories consider déjà vu as a fleeting glimpse into a parallel universe or a multiverse. This idea stems from concepts in quantum mechanics, particularly the many-worlds interpretation, MWI, which posits that every time a quantum event has multiple possible outcomes, the universe splits into corresponding parallel realities, each representing a different outcome. If this were true, then perhaps déjà vu could be a momentary bleed-through, a brief synchronization or echo from a slightly different timeline or reality, where a version of you did indeed experience that exact moment before. Imagine yourself in a train station in Zurich, looking at a departure board. In this reality, you're about to board a train to Geneva. But in a slightly parallel reality, a version of you just boarded that very train yesterday, perhaps a train, to Bern, but everything else, the platform, the crowd, the precise hum of the train, is identical. When your consciousness in this reality briefly aligns or brushes against that other timeline, you get that uncanny feeling of already seen. This is highly speculative, of course, and quantum mechanics primarily deals with the behavior of particles at the subatomic level, not with macroscopic consciousness or parallel worlds in the way sci-fi portrays them. However, the feeling of déjà vu itself is so divorced from normal memory that it often invites such grand, imaginative leaps, even within more accepted theoretical physics. Some ideas about the nature of time itself can provoke thoughts on déjà vu. The concept of the block universe, for example, suggests that all moments in time, past, present, and future, exist simultaneously, like frames in a film reel. If time is not a flowing river, but a fixed, four-dimensional block, then our conscious experience of moving through time might be an illusion. In this framework, déjà vu could be interpreted not as a memory of something that happened before, but as a momentary awareness of a point in the block universe that your consciousness has somehow already traversed, or perhaps a deeper, unconscious recognition of the fixed, unchanging nature of your personal timeline within this block. This is a very abstract idea, challenging our intuitive understanding of time, but it highlights how the persistent mystery of déjà vu can lead us to question fundamental aspects of our reality. The very nature of consciousness itself might also hold clues. Some theories propose that déjà vu arises from the brain's attempt to create a continuous, coherent narrative of our experience. Our conscious minds abhor gaps or inconsistencies. When a new experience arrives with some ambiguous familiarity cues, as discussed in previous acts, and our brain can't immediately place it, it might generate the feeling of déjà vu as a kind of narrative shortcut or a way to quickly integrate the ambiguous information into a familiar framework, even if that framework is fabricated in the moment. It's the brain striving for coherence, even if it means momentarily bending reality to fit its established patterns. Ultimately, these more speculative and philosophical interpretations of déjà vu highlight just how deeply interconnected our perception of time, memory, and consciousness truly are. The feeling of already seeing is a profound testament to the brain's incredible complexity and its constant work to make sense of the world, even when that world presents us with moments that defy simple explanation. Whether it's a sophisticated memory glitch, a subtle neural misfire, or something far more profound, touching on the very fabric of existence. Deja vu reminds us that our perception of the world is anything but simple. It's a beautifully complex construction, constantly being woven and rewoven by our incredible minds, offering fleeting glimpses into the strange and wonderful ways we experience reality. The human mind, in its relentless quest for meaning and pattern, will always find fertile ground for wonder in such a common, yet utterly perplexing sensation. While most scientific explanations for déjà vu comfortably reside within the realms of psychology and neurology, the feeling itself is so profoundly unsettling and uncanny that it has also sparked deeper philosophical contemplation and even touches on more speculative ideas, pushing the boundaries of what we currently understand about consciousness, time, and reality itself. Could déjà vu be more than just a brain glitch? Could it be a faint echo from a broader, more mysterious universe? One of the oldest and most enduring non-scientific interpretations of déjà vu comes from spiritual and metaphysical traditions, the idea of a past life. For those who believe in reincarnation, déjà vu is often cited as anecdotal evidence of a soul's previous journeys. The feeling of stepping into a new place, meeting a new person, or hearing a new piece of music and instantly feeling an inexplicable familiarity is interpreted as a flicker of memory from a prior existence. Perhaps that old stone bridge in Lyon, which you've never consciously seen, feels familiar because a version of you in a different time walked across it centuries ago. Or that intense connection you feel with a stranger is because your souls have intersected in another lifetime. While compelling on a personal and spiritual level for many, these interpretations are, by their very nature, beyond the current scope of scientific falsifiability. Science relies on empirical evidence and testable hypotheses, and memories of past lives simply don't fit into that framework. Yet the persistent human tendency to seek deeper meaning in such an anomalous experience speaks to its profound psychological impact. Moving closer to the edge of theoretical physics, some speculative theories consider déjà vu as a fleeting glimpse into a parallel universe or a multiverse. This idea stems from concepts in quantum mechanics, particularly the many worlds interpretation, MWI, which posits that every time a quantum event has multiple possible outcomes, the universe splits into corresponding parallel realities, each representing a different outcome. If this were true, then perhaps déjà vu could be a momentary bleed through, a brief synchronization or echo from a slightly different timeline or reality, where a version of you did indeed experience that exact moment before. Imagine yourself in a train station in Zurich, looking at a departure board. In this reality, you're about to board a train to Geneva. But in a slightly parallel reality, a version of you just boarded that very train yesterday, perhaps a train to Bern, but everything else, the platform, the crowd, the precise hum of the train, is identical. When your consciousness in this reality briefly aligns or brushes against that other timeline, you get that uncanny feeling of already seen. This is highly speculative, of course, and quantum mechanics primarily deals with the behavior of particles at the subatomic level, not with macroscopic consciousness or parallel worlds in the way sci-fi portrays them. However, the feeling of déjà vu itself is so divorced from normal memory that it often invites such grand, imaginative leaps. Even within more accepted theoretical physics, some ideas about the nature of time itself can provoke thoughts on déjà vu. The concept of the block universe, for example, suggests that all moments in time, past, present, and future, exist simultaneously, like frames in a film reel. If time is not a flowing river, but a fixed four-dimensional block, then our conscious experience of moving through time might be an illusion. In this framework, déjà vu could be interpreted not as a memory of something that happened before, but as a momentary awareness of a point in a block universe that your consciousness has somehow already traversed, or perhaps a deeper unconscious recognition of the fixed, unchanging nature of your personal timeline within this block. This is a very abstract idea, challenging our intuitive understanding of time, but it highlights how the persistent mystery of déjà vu can lead us to question fundamental aspects of our reality. The very nature of consciousness itself might also hold clues. Some theories propose that déjà vu arises from the brain's attempt to create a continuous, coherent narrative of our experience. Our conscious minds abhor gaps or inconsistencies. When a new experience arrives with some ambiguous familiarity cues, as discussed in previous acts, and our brain can't immediately place it, it might generate the feeling of déjà vu as a kind of narrative shortcut or a way to quickly integrate the ambiguous information into a familiar framework, even if that framework is fabricated in the moment. It's the brain striving for coherence, even if it means momentarily bending reality to fit its established patterns. Ultimately, these more speculative and philosophical interpretations of déjà vu highlight just how deeply interconnected our perception of time, memory, and consciousness truly are. The feeling of already seen is a profound testament to the brain's incredible complexity and its constant work to make sense of the world, even when that world presents us with moments that defy simple explanation. Whether it's a sophisticated memory glitch, a subtle neural misfire, or something far more profound touching on the very fabric of existence, déjà vu reminds us that our perception of the world is anything but simple. It's a beautifully complex construction, constantly being woven and rewoven by our incredible minds, offering fleeting glimpses into the strange and wonderful ways we experience reality. The human mind, in its relentless quest for meaning and pattern, will always find fertile ground for wonder in such a common yet utterly perplexing sensation. And so, dear traveler, our gentle exploration of déjà vu comes to a peaceful close. We've journeyed through the intricate workings of memory, tracing the paths of fragmented retrieval and dual processing. We've delved into the subtle, momentary misfires of neural pathways in our temporal lobes, imagining the brain's electrical symphony briefly hitting a dissonant, yet harmless note. We've considered the quiet influence of our attention, how a fleeting distraction can prime our minds for that familiar surprise. And we've pondered the silent echoes of environmental cues, how a unique arrangement of sights and sounds can trick our pattern-matching brains. Finally, we've touched upon the grander, more philosophical whispers, the intriguing notions of past lives, parallel universes, and the very nature of time itself, all invited to the conversation by this curious feeling, from a fleeting trick of the mind to a potential window into deeper realities. Déjà vu remains a deeply human experience, a momentary ripple in the flow of our perception. It's a reminder that our brains are endlessly fascinating, capable of creating sensations that defy simple logic, making the world feel both new and strangely familiar, all at once. It's a powerful illustration of the difference between what is and what feels. A new street in Mansa is new, but in that moment of déjà vu, it feels old, a testament to the mind's incredible capacity for illusion and interpretation. Perhaps the most comforting aspect of déjà vu, especially after unwrapping its various layers, is its benign nature for most people. For the vast majority, it's not a symptom of illness or a sign of anything alarming. Instead, it's a perfectly normal, if puzzling, aspect of human cognition, a common thread woven into the tapestry of our collective experience. It reminds us that our internal world is far richer and more complex than we often assume, with intricate processes happening beneath the surface of our conscious awareness. It's a testament to the brain's constant, tireless work in constructing our reality, trying to make sense of every incoming piece of information, and sometimes, in its zeal, creating these delightful little MISATTRIB S-L-U-T-I-O-N. So, the next time that peculiar feeling washes over you, that sense of I've been here before, try not to worry. Instead, perhaps take a deep, calming breath. Allow yourself a moment of gentle curiosity. Recognize it as one of the many wonderful, curious ways your mind interacts with the world. It's a testament to the incredible complexity of your own inner universe and a quiet invitation to simply be present in the mystery. There's no need to search for a hidden meaning or an elaborate explanation in that very moment. The beauty of déjà vu often lies in its fleeting, elusive quality, its ability to momentarily blur the lines between the known and the unknown. By understanding its potential origins, we can appreciate it not as a supernatural event, but as a fascinating manifestation of our brain's sophisticated and sometimes quirky functions. Just as we understand that a dream, no matter how vivid, is a product of our sleeping mind, so too can we approach déjà vu as a product of our waking, yet incredibly complex brain. It's a reminder of the subtle interplay between our sensory inputs, our attentional focus, and the vast archives of our memories, both conscious and unconscious. It's a fleeting whisper from the subconscious, saying, "Look closely. This feels familiar, doesn't it?" Even if it isn't. And in that whisper, there's a profound teaching that our experience of reality is highly personalized, a unique construction shaped by our own internal processing. And if this quiet expedition into the familiar, unknown has brought you a moment of calm or helped you drift gently toward your dreams, I'd be ever so grateful if you'd like this video, subscribe to Cosmic Sleep channel, and perhaps share this sleepy space with someone else who might need a peaceful pause. Because even in our slumber, our minds are capable of extraordinary things. And sometimes the gentle unraveling of a mystery can be the most soothing lullaby of all. Sleep well, fellow traveler, wherever and whenever you are.